60 seconds to comply.
I think you'd better do what he says, Mr. Kenny.
You have 60 seconds to comply. This is minute 82. Part man.
Part machine.
All pod.
This minute begins with Joe blowing up his beloved SUX and ends with Robocop about to pick up some baby food during the sleepover party.
No, Joe's SUX blew up the last minute.
I see. Okay, now this is my question.
Paris blew it up.
Yeah, because it was already on fire, and then he fires at a car which looks identical to that one. There's no other cars in that parking lot. So are there two SUXs? Or three?
Okay, yeah, no, I'm re-looking at it. So this actually comes up in the commentary, and even Ed says that this is... I didn't even write this down because I think it was such a non-thing. Ed says that Joe was trying to shoot the fire hydrant to prove that this is a bullet that can destroy Robocop. But he admits that that didn't work. So, yeah.
Yeah, that shot. I mean, you see the water going afterwards, but it's just the way it's framed and edited. It really looks like they're trying to say, oh, he shot the car that he was upset that was shot in the first place. I guess he just went, oh, well, in for a penny, in for a pound, I guess.
Yeah, my brain always kind of took it as the fire hydrant anyway, but it was just one of those things of like, that's apparently why that shot exists, and it's... You've literally just blew up a car with a rifle. How much do you really need to sell that this thing can kill Robocop?
Yeah, seems kind of redundant.
But, yeah, so, got that one out of the way. Actually, my first note is Joe's cock rocket, because I just wanted to get the orgasmo reference in there. Cock rocket! So
Boddicker now knows that Robocop is in the steel mill, and that's where they're heading off to.
He's heading for the old mill!
And, the old mill. And the street's completely empty now. Not that long ago, there was a bunch of punks running around, but I guess once you pull the rocket launcher out, everyone's running away.
Yeah, I mean, this is the literally the chaos in the street scene, and I think once the guys come out with heavy artillery that just blow shit up, you're probably not going to want to loot anything anymore.
Yeah, party don't stop till I walk in and pull out a rocket-propelled grenade launcher.
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't even... I don't know. That's the problem. It's not even like it's a rocket-propelled grenade, because it's just a gun that shoots exploding rounds for reason.
BFG.
It is a big BFG.
Rather than RPG. 43 seconds in. Is it just me, or that van on the left, it looks like it has a Pixar face?
Oh, I don't know. I have to look at that now. How many seconds? Okay.
43. Am I tripping? Is it just...
If this is the inspiration, because it's got this white thing and these just two dots, and oh my god.
And it kind of looks like it's got these big bucky teeth. It's like, ah. So yeah, that's the inspiration for Mater from Disney's Cars.
I cannot. Oh, now I know what the episode artwork is going to be. So is this the future that Cars 2 warned us about?
Yes. Yeah, this is what went down before the Cars took over.
I was going to say, or is this the past that led to the Cars future, where humanity is wiped out and only the weird anthropomorphic cars remain?
I would really love the prequel to Cars, where the humans are still around and they're enslaved by the cars. I think that would be the best.
But the problem is that the Cars universe makes no sense, because it's just our universe with cars. So, who invented them? No, not getting into that.
This is very good. I know. You know what? We should just do a Cars movies by minute, because you wouldn't run out of things to say. There would just be so many questions.
No, all I would be doing is just every episode I would just be redirecting to the Kill James Bond episode of Cars 2, where all they're just going on about is, is there a car... Because the existence of a car therefore means there's an existence of car Jesus Christ. And because there was Cars World War II, there had to be car Hitler. So, I have nothing... I cannot improve on perfection.
It's beautiful, man. It's truly... It's what it doesn't say that really...
I'll be perfectly honest. I have not seen a single Cars movie or spin-off or derivative. It never appealed to me, and I never bothered. So
hang on, I'm just gonna look up what year that came out. Fuck, why are we talking? 2006. So I was 14, and that was the day I became a woman. So I loved Pixar until that moment.
And this was the day that...
I just. I was sitting in the cinema and I was watching that. And I was so ready to love it because Pixar could do no wrong. Pixar did wrong.
Courtney's first porno.
And I never. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Given that I'm a mechanophile, kinda. Maybe that's where it started, or Transformers the following year. Either way.
Oh, I think one of those has got to be the Ding.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, that would explain so much.
You know what? I didn't realize until now, but that was quite a formative experience.
I don't know why these cars have mouths, but I like it.
Oh my God, no, now like the size of it. The size of the tongue, though. Oh my God. Fuck.
That can either be a good thing or a great thing.
Yeah, jeez, wow. I mean, is there saliva? Do you, if you're a car, do you have saliva?
I guess it could be coolant.
Yeah, is it safe for human skin? I've got a lot of questions here.
Well, that's what the lubricant's for. Oh, we're fucking horny on main tonight. Oh, we haven't even talked about the fact that they blew up a porn store as well.
Yeah, maybe subconsciously that was filtering into our minds there, yeah.
Well, sadly this scene also does end with some casual homophobia, which, honestly, I never even heard. I literally just didn't even listen here until going over this minute. I'm just like, hang on, did he just say that particular F word? Go back, holy shit, he did.
Oh, I didn't hear. Yeah, they just slipped that in there.
It's
like
very subtle. It's very subtle. And yeah, slipping it in there, no kink shaming.
Yeah, I was about to say, slip it in like Lightning McQueen's tongue.
Just make sure you use plenty of lubricant. The cars like lubricant.
Yep. Yep. It's a thing we have in common. What? What is this episode?
Well, the funny thing is, speaking about cars, there is like, let me just do a quick check. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages of script. So, essentially an entire scene that was not, as far as I can tell, not even filmed. And I may have alluded to this previously. I have mentioned that these scenes have been chopped and changed around relative to the script in the book. But there's a scene in both the book and the script where that is completely missing, which is actually what essentially ties this scene and the end scene together. And it's actually after Robocop and Lewis sort out his targeting, they go out on patrol. It's actually during that patrol that the Boddicker gang actually find Murphy, and there's a car chase. And I tried to see if I could find any information about it. I looked at my Blu-ray, and that's when I found that my Blu-ray disc is not working. Just like the Robocop 3 disc isn't working. But the Robocop 2 one did. So 1 out of 3 is pretty bad on a product.
Yeah.
So I had a look online to look to like deleted scenes put up on YouTube. There are some deleted scenes up on YouTube, but I don't remember there being that many, and none of them has come up. So there are a couple of deleted scenes. That's one we're definitely going to talk about later on in the movie, which I will leave till then. But for this one, it seems to me that obviously after this version of the draft, which I think is draft 4, but by the time we went to shoot, they decided to cut that scene out, and thankfully, I'm glad they did, because it doesn't feel necessary. I remember even reading in the book, going, "This feels a little bit excessive."
What was the point of that scene?
The point of the scene is just to basically tie the two narrative points together. It's just essentially to get Robocop and Boddicker on the same path. But we don't need it, because even in the book and the script, Boddicker has the tracking device. He knows where Robocop is, and he's going to go find him. Hence, heading to the old mill so he can go get some cider.
It's one of those things. I was talking to a friend of the show, Josh, actually, about structural issues in a story that, from the outside, the solution's so simple, or it's obvious that there's a problem there, and yet the writers will continue down that pathway even though it's not working. So, at least, thankfully, in the case of Robocop, they worked out all those kinks before they actually started filming.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's you can definitely tell that the book was produced way in advance, just from the structure and the shooting and stuff, like, and just the characterization. But yeah, it's weird how many movies, like, there's a phrase in script writing called undercooked. When a script is undercooked, as in it's not had time to be revised or edited, or even gone through any kind of decent revision. And then usually an undercooked...
Like Ridley Scott's half-baked Alien prequels. There's some great ingredients, like really fine quality ingredients in there, and I feel that if it just had a bit more time...
Yeah, well, that's, I think, one of the reasons why the term came around, because, yeah, a lot of it is just... Sometimes a script needs extra time, and that's why... movies that tend to get rushed out, especially a sequel that gets rushed out... will often have an undercooked script, because, so let's say, for example, let's use Robocop. How many years did it take Eddie Meyer and Michael Miner to go from script development to selling to production? It's past Blade Runner, so that was what, 81? Blade Runner?
Blade Runner's 82.
82. Oh yeah, so between 82...
It just turned 40 last month.
Oh, there you go. I should have realised that. I probably did realise that, but I thought they were talking about something else. Anyway, so between 82 and 87, when it was produced, you got to imagine that, say, 3 of those years were writing, rewriting, selling the script. Then once the script got sold, it got edited again, revised again. It gets passed on to producer with directors and stuff like that.
I guess that's the one advantage of... especially that period of Hollywood, and they were going for a lot of original scripts, so these things took a long time to develop and go anywhere at all.
Yeah.
So gives it a lot of time in the oven, whereas I think the rate at which we produce films these days is just so rapid fire.
Yeah.
And it's particularly a lot of, we talk about this a lot, it's a lot of recognizable intellectual property. So that, again, accelerates the process and makes it less personal, too.
Yeah. I mean, that's logistically, that's one of the major advantages of sequels and remakes to a certain degree as well, is like you don't have to develop even something as basic as character design can take a chunk of production time, or even like reusing costumes. Even though the Marvel's movies and things like that will update costumes or do cosmetic changes here and there between movies, that's not an unknown thing, but it's different to having to reinvent the wheel every single time.
Yeah, it's basically, popcorn is actually a really good equivalent. People seem to love popcorn. Everyone loves popcorn. There's nothing special about it. There's nothing complicated about it. It's the same fucking product every single time. Yeah. And yet people still consume it. So...
Exactly. No, the funny thing is, like, just off the top of my head, the average time between a movie and a sequel is usually about 2 to 3 years, if they're just trying to pump stuff out sometimes. I'm just trying to find the year Robocop 2 came out. So yeah, 3 years after Robocop 1 came Robocop 2. So in that time, they had to come up with a new script and blah, 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 blah. Between Robocop 2 and Robocop 3 is like 2 years, I think. But they were supposed to be shot back to back, essentially, even though that didn't happen. And Peter Weller at that point had moved on to Naked Lunch. So yeah, it was like about...
And he probably needed time to recover all the body mass he lost from that costume. I don't think you can just go from one to the other.
So it says a lot when, a script is so underwritten, because, or at least it's so undercooked because the Hollywood wants to literally produce a movie tomorrow. And the writers weren't writing a series. I mean, it's a probably different story now. You imagine the writers of a Marvel or a DC expanded universe or any kind of expanded universe are thinking 3 scripts ahead. Like Marvel are scheduling like 6 movies ahead and producing them every, there's like a 3-year production block in most movies, I think, now, but they're coming out so rapid you don't notice. But I think it was between Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2, Jon Favreau had to go from scratch, writing a script to finishing the movie in about I think it was about 18 months.
Oh, yeah, Iron Man. That first Iron Man actually didn't have a completed script, and yet it's actually really good. It changed cinema forever. Yeah.
But Iron Man 2,
sometimes it works.
Yeah, Iron Man 2, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as I think a lot of people make it out, but it is a severely undercooked movie, and you can tell. They literally had no idea what they wanted to do beyond, we're going to do Demon in a Bottle. That was about it. That's all they knew.
So we cut to Lewis seemingly propped up on the most uncomfortable cushion ever. It's a pile of wood or metal dowel or something like that. It's dowel of some description.
Oh, no, it looks like... it is. It's rusted metal. Because if you
Tetanus.
That has to... Well, she's got a blankie on there, but it's...
Yeah.
If you look onto the left side of the screen, you can actually see some slightly unrusted bits of metal. I've been looking at a lot of restoration YouTube, so I'm quite recognizable as seeing rusted metal. Yeah, and also
sandblasting metal is. Yeah,
it's fun to watch. But yeah, I thought it was logs to begin with. Yeah.
So I think it's just demonstrating just how badass she is, and later, in the next minute, we'll see just how badass she is as well.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about the targeting scene.
Yes,
we'll get there. We'll get there.
All the scenes in the steel mill are so cinematic, and I mean the location's great. I think the location gives a lot anyway, but I think Verhoeven is doing things with the framing as well that is very unexpected for a film of this genre, and that's why this movie works in general. Is that you have this outsider, this foreign art house director essentially.
Yes,
and I think there are very few other examples of movies like this where you get a complete outsider and get them to do a fairly conventional film. I think the closest equivalent you could probably say is David Lynch. I mean, he is American, but he is not connected with that kind of sci-fi, fantasy, action, Hollywood stuff at all. I mean, that's the obvious comparison. But the other one that I wanted to mention was this short film made in Uzbekistan, I believe in the 80s, and it's an adaptation of the Ray Bradbury story, There Will Come Soft Rains. I don't know if you're familiar with this one.
No, I admit I haven't read enough Ray Bradbury. I really should read more.
It's really good. So, There Will Come Soft Rains is about a smart home that, I guess this is before the term smart home was invented, but you follow its routine. There are no human living characters in it, really. There's a dog, briefly. But you follow its routine in serving this family. And you notice that something's wrong, and there's no one around, and what's happening. Then you realize, they've been killed in a nuclear fallout. But the house continues to function. And it's a fascinating story. And it's very much this sort of white, middle-class, mid-century American suburbia story. But when it's told through, I think they were part of the USSR at the time, that kind of Soviet animation style, it creates this real alien quality. It so perfectly satirizes what was already satirical on American culture, because you've added this other layer. And it's the same thing with Robocop, where it's not only it was satirical from the get-go, But then you add a European in the mix, and it's even more of this alien outsider perspective holding up a mirror going, isn't this so bizarre? This is what you are. That's so weird, right?
Is this what I was talking about with problem with satire last episode is because those who recognize the satire love the satire. I mean, I love satire. But one of the problems with satire is the blurriness of that line, because it needs to be real enough so people get the satire, but also it still needs to be satirical. That's the thing people don't realize about satire, is it needs to make a point. It needs to be satirical. It needs to be either by comedy or pointing out the foibles or the hypocrisy, or it has to have a message. Satire has to have a message. Robocop's message is about the corporatism. It's about the gun culture. It's about the corruption. So it's very multi-layered. So, and it's weird how many people don't get that. Like, they just
I am
don't see the deeper
fascinated by and I'm fascinated by themes. I think more than anything, that's what I'm going to take away, and that's what's going to keep me coming back to a story. It doesn't matter the minutia. You know, some people really get into maybe Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Dune, very lore heavy stories, but I can't really connect because what I want is to kind of muse on certain themes, and that's why Robocop, Blade Runner, Christine, even the Alien prequels, they all revolve around a particular theme. And that's why I do the movies by minute style, because with a theme, that's infinite fuel. When it comes to lore or that kind of minutia, I feel that only gets you so far. When it comes to theme, well, what does that theme mean to you? What does that mean to someone else? What does that mean for this time period? What does it mean for a time period decades ago or in the future?
Yeah, I think something like you got two great examples there. You got Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. They're not thematic in any way, but they are basically, well, one came about after the creation of the idea of the hero's journey from Joseph Campbell, the hero of the Thousand Faces, and so those are stories less about theme or satire or commentary, and more about fable, more about mythology. So lore is a great way to describe those things. Like, they're steeped in the...
I've often wondered, so we use the word postmodern a lot, but what is modernism in cinema? Because modernism in architecture or art, that means that it's not referring to anything. It's not satirical or parodying or shifting something that already exists. It's sort of perpetuating tradition, or it's hard to describe. But I would actually argue that in cinema, maybe things like The Lord of the Rings or Star Wars are modernism, or as close as we could get.
I would actually go one step. Okay, so part of modernism was about exploring the world as it is, and things like that. When we talk about movies, I don't think
that's a good way to
There's not been a real movement in cinema towards modernism, because in many ways cinema at its core is a very modernistic look at the world. Cinema verite and verisimilitude and stuff like that is very much an idea of showing the reality, even though there's like absurdism and stuff like that. A lot of those type of things, whereas art house tends to go heavy into that type of stuff. And I can't even think of... Excuse me, my throat's just gone to shit. I can't think of many
got some great voices going on today.
I can't think of many postmodernistic movies that aren't explicitly about cinema itself. You know, it's like movies talking about movies. I mean, I guess, does that make Kevin Smith postmodern when he's, doing stuff like Jay and Silent Bob Get Rebooted?
Yeah, I mean... when you start... I think modernism and postmodern, they're very difficult concepts to apply to cinema. I'm not sure why, but it's something I like to think about at least.
So postmodern is deals with a lot of... which is so weird when you get these right-wing dickheads going on about how much I hate postmodernism. Postmodernism is not about rejecting modernity. It's about asking the questions surrounding modern ideas, but even then it's deeper than that. It's about signs and signifiers. It's about deconstructionism. It's about critique and things that we've been doing for centuries. We just didn't have a word for it until the last century.
Yeah, and so looking at things like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, I feel they're so traditional, they're so status quo. They are... Yeah. They're remarkably apolitical. Both of them were created around the time of fairly significant conflict. So definitely in the case of Lord of the Rings, it was around World War II. And in the case of Star Wars, you've just gotten over Vietnam. The world is still reeling from that. And, well, you would think... I mean, there are definitely elements, visual elements, that have worked their way into those stories. There are kind of Naziist images. But both creators say it's just coincidence. It's just, well, that's our visual language now.
Okay, well, Tolkien has gone on record, when people were talking about the themes and political narratives of Lord of the Rings regarding, World War, being allegory to World War, and he's rejected all that. George Lucas, on the other hand, flat out used World War II imagery, like World War II reels, World War II movies. The original Star Wars trilogy was, or at least A New Hope, was steeped in World War II iconography. To say that that's apolitical is complete bullshit at that point. And the fact it's Star Wars.
Yeah, but what is it actually saying about real-world politics? Because, I mean, that's the thing people love to discuss endlessly about Star Wars is, well, is it actually saying anything about real-world politics? I mean, there is this sort of... The Empire is very obviously kind of...
Fascist.
Well, very obviously fascist. But what are you actually saying about it? It is a very, adolescent take on very complex world politics, I guess.
It isn't actually saying the adolescent take. And that's the problem with using the iconography of war, literally calling it a war, but not doing anything with it. I mean, it's a catchy title, but at the same time, it's like, you literally got space Nazis versus wizards with fucking laser swords, and I'm deliberately using those words to piss people off.
Yeah, like a Star Wars where, Luke's mates are all going off to join the war efforts. Yeah. And just seeing how it destroys all his friends and, seeing the real ramifications of war. Don't think that would have
But it's okay, they got medals at the end.
Yeah, except Chewbacca. But we also fixed that in the sequels or whatever the fuck. Anyway.
Fucked.
But that's the thing is people respond to it because it's apolitical, because it's just so neutral and everything is so simple and friendly. Whereas something like Robocop or Blade Runner or any of those, they are asking very challenging questions. Therefore, it's never going to have mainstream appeal, which is kind of... It always saddens me. The idea that, if it's smart, it can't be beloved. Except maybe Kubrick? Kubrick seems to be the one that everyone freaking watches and everyone enjoys, whether they actually understand what happened or not.
But science fiction traditionally has been the realm of allegory, discussing political events and discussing issues that...
Which is why... I guess Star Wars isn't really science fiction in the traditional sense.
No, it's a space opera. That's the best description I've ever heard for Star Wars is a space opera.
There's not going to be a Prometheus-esque Star Wars episode or film, or whatever you want to call them, where they try to find the origin of humanity in the Star Wars universe. I don't think that's quite going to happen.
Well, I was going to say is the one thing I love about universes, and this is why I'm glad that keep bringing them up. Marvel. This one thing I like about the current phases is that they're trying to go outside of the standard superhero story. We're getting superhero comedy like Taika Waititi's efforts. We're getting superhero horror like Multiverse of Madness, and even the What If stories having those elements as well. And that's what I think people fail to realize about genre is that genre is fluid. You can always go somewhere with it, and that's the thing. Yeah, the evolution of science fiction. Whereas science fiction used to be this whole thing of, it was either cheesy 50s, chonky movies, or
this island Earth.
Yeah, or highfalutin, high concept, almost beating you around the head with allegory. Like, as much as I like him, Isaac Asimov could do that as well. Like, this is about humanity, even though I'm talking about fucking robots. Things like that. But, like, yeah, you get a weird thing like Star Wars, which everyone goes, oh, it's science fiction because it's got space lasers and pew-pews and spaceships. But, like, it doesn't fit into science fiction because it doesn't delve into the things that science fiction does delve into.
I think what turns a lot of people off about genre is that they sort of ask, well, what's the point? It's all made up. These aren't real things. Actually, speaking of Isaac Asimov, Isaac Asimov was one of the first people to write a murder mystery in the science fiction genre because I think it was a mate of his said, it's impossible because anything can happen in your story. So how do you define the limits and the parameters of that story? And he went, hold my beer. This is very simple. You establish a limitation. Let's say, okay, iRobot, for example. We know we don't have teleportation. We know that there isn't time travel. We know you're not going to throw that in the third act because that would be unsatisfying. However, that is a mistake a lot of genre writers make, and that's what turns people off of science fiction or fantasy, where they just go, but what's the point? What's the significance of it if it's not, I don't feel there's any sense of stakes or risk. And
I'm going to talk about one of my favorite Star Trek episodes.
Well, shit. It's exactly what I was hoping to spare you from.
Star Trek Deep Space Nine episodes, which I know you've not seen because it's in season 7. And it's a murder mystery.
I'll get there eventually.
I won't go into it too much, but the whole idea is that people are being murdered on Deep Space Nine, and it's the classic closed room or problem.
It was Garrick. Garrick did it.
It was of course it was Garrick. But shit, I didn't want to spoil it. No, so the idea is that people are dying from gunshot wounds to the head, in their quarters there's been no security logs, no one coming in or out. All the door security is logging people in and out. The person comes in, then sometime an hour or so later or 2 minutes later they get killed, and the body only gets discovered when the internal systems go off. So it becomes this idea of, how did somebody murder people in an environment where there was no traces of teleportation? Like, there's no, because that kind of stuff leaves radiation, that leaves sensors. There's been none of the internal sensors could detect any bodies being transported and stuff like that. So it really is that thing of, there's this technology we know, and they're just going through it. Yeah, and even the fact of there are people being shot in the head with projectile weaponry. A gun is not a thing that people use in the 24th century when you have phasers. So that becomes part of the puzzle. It's really, really smartly done. It's not a great episode in many ways, but it's very smartly done. And you can do that.
Yeah.
People say you can't do certain things, are so limited in scope. It's ridiculous.
And I think Robocop actually kind of circumvents a lot of this because it makes the whole story so grounded anyway. It's our world, but not quite as we know it. Yeah. And the only real science fiction element is Robocop himself. Yeah. And I think that's what makes it so timeless, and that people will be able to watch this even 100 years from now, and they'll still be able to get something out of it.
Like, visually, like, the time, like, it's clearly a movie made in the 80s if you know what you're looking at, but even today it's still a recognizably urban environment, and or even worse, or actually not even worse, even better, it's a worse environment. It's got urban decay. It's one of those things where you can imagine 20 years from now our planet looking like that still. And this was at the height of like, things like the energy crisis and all the other stuff going on politically. Like,
That's something I wonder about, that we have these buildings, these structures, like you look across Europe, for example, and those buildings have been there for hundreds of years, and those structures for hundreds of years would have just looked modern, would have looked normal.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, are we reaching that equilibrium now that for the last 100 years or so, we have had, well, maybe not skyscrapers 100 years ago, but, we've had concrete buildings, we've had multi-story buildings for a very long time, and our cities basically entering their final form. Is this what architecture will look like for the next century or so? And if so, does that make movies like this more timeless, accidentally?
Well, funny you should say that, because we've had skyscrapers for over a century. And the steel-framed skyscrapers, like the Empire State Building and things like that, they're almost essentially like. I think the Empire State is actually was built to equip a dirigible access. Like, it was high enough that like blimps and things like that, and Zeppelins it was designed to have a platform for them. It obviously didn't work. And you gotta remember, that's almost a century old. A Zeppelin by itself, that only basically died during the war because of the Hindenburg disaster, for starters. But they're also very impractical, and they've been around for over a century. So it's amazing how much of our modern world, or what the things we think of in our modern world, skyscrapers and stuff like that, have been around for a long time.
Oh, yeah. The Chrysler Building was built in 1928. Yeah, wow. So I didn't even think they had elevators. That means you just had to walk all the freaking way up.
No, they did have elevators by that stage, but there were mechanical ones. And
by the way, for context, Nosferatu just turned 100 as well. That is wild.
Yeah.
That really just... Oh my god, that just puts things into so much perspective for me.
The first
where we're
film.
going and where we were. Yeah, basically. OC, do not steal. And...
Nosferatu is the best OC.
He really is. I love him. But if you or the listeners haven't watched it, there's I believe it's called Shadow of the Vampire.
Yeah, Shadow of the Vampire with Willem Dafoe. Yeah, and John Malkovich.
Yes, and it's about the making of the film Nosferatu in this kind of heightened, fantastical sense of you don't know if Willem Dafoe's a man or an actual vampire. And,
yeah,
it's so good.
He plays Max Schreck, also as a Batman villain.
What a great name. And
you're fired.
Yeah, that makes me feel like the world 100 years ago wasn't that different. Aside from fashion and stuff, a lot of it... Yeah, it's slowing down. I think we're reaching a kind of equilibrium.
Yeah, we've brought this up in the past, it's just how almost stifled culture has been in the last decade or two, like in regards to... We keep going backwards to the past. Like, nostalgia is one of those things that just keeps getting brought back up. Fashion trends are in like this...
I can't wait for the 1880s revival. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, you've got medieval reenactors and enthusiasts and stuff like that. So
I guess steampunk had its day.
Yeah. But like medieval fairs and stuff like that. So people are loving that thing, and you're getting this almost now pushback to this idea of artisanal... wares, and as a pushback against mass production and corporatism and stuff like that. So it is weird that in many ways we're seeing a rejection of modernity and or at least
reject humanity, embrace monkey.
Embrace the monkey. Oh, I think that's the ding.
Yeah.
No, so it is weird that how the more things change, the more they stay the same is a great phrase that I like.
The older I get, the more they stay the same.
And that would have been a good segue, but there are things I could have talked about in the script, but honestly, it's not much difference. And there's a thing, and maybe we should get on to the other fucking thing.
Gaslighting Robocop.
Alex, how do you feel? I feel fine, Dr. Norton.
Yeah.
So, minute 96 begins with Norton, or Morton, I don't know. It never
Norton.
looks right when I say it, or hear it. Sounds, yeah, it is Norton, but it just sounds wrong.
It does.
It begins with Norton telling Alex they can go to the presses, and ends with Sellers finally getting to deliver his villain monologue out of the window with his back turned to someone.
So my notes for 96, I'm not sure if we'll do 96, 97, we'll see how it go. But my note for 96 is just Sellers and the city, ... They're gonna fuck.
It's a beautiful city. Look how beautiful it's become. Oh, Detroit. It's peaceful. It's beautiful. Yeah, okay, buddy.
Well, that's the thing. He's going about how peaceful the city has become. And we're like going, we don't see it be not peaceful.
Oh, it was so bloody chaotic before, mate. You don't even know. Oh, you just can't even imagine.
Yeah, we're not going to show it to you. But God, can you just imagine how chaotic it was before the robot man turned up?
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. I can show you stock footage that would make your hair turn white.
No, my brain just went to Michael Keaton doing A Whole New World. I can show you.
That's Beetlejuice. Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. Sellers is DTF Detroit in very many different ways.
Yes. And yeah, it's just that. How could it be more cliche? I cringed at this in the Watchmen, the Zack Snyder Watchmen, where Ozymandias with his soft German accent is staring out the window. You wouldn't understand, Dad. I must bring peace to the world. Yeah, buddy, I fucking got it.
I'm gonna fuck this city like a... No.
I'm gonna fuck this city like an animal. Gonna feel you from the inside. You take me closer to God.
I was actually gonna go from the Penguin, but no, closer.
Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah, closer by 9 Inch Nails is a lot better.
So Maddox sees Robocop riding his bike, and Maddox is driving a Porsche SUV. I didn't know. I don't think I'd put him in that kind of vehicle, but
I didn't even notice.
We can't have anyone having personality. Well, of course I noticed the car, but yeah. It just feels like, oh, this is just such a very modern, sleek, shiny, generic car. Whereas I think Maddox should be driving a piece of shit that he could afford better, but he's probably driving a piece of shit anyway.
He should be driving something like a fucking Humvee or something like that. He should be driving, private military fucking hardware.
Yeah.
Not a fucking shitty SUV.
Yeah.
We're gonna see it's
shitty, but on the way I want beat up Mad Max looking motherfucker. Yeah.
Yeah, but that might actually show that the city was in chaos at some point. We can't fucking have that.
Oh, I just want cyberpunk.
Yeah,
this is Robocop and there's no cyberpunk.
But we need a nice, clean-shaven city for Sellers to fuck.
That's the way he likes it.
If it's got any hair downstairs, then that's considered uncouth.
No go. Fuck. I don't know how one has sex with an entire city. I feel like Kingpin in the Netflix Daredevil show, he's probably up there too, and someone who's actually thought about the logistics of my city. And
every single pothole, every single sewer grate.
When I was a boy, I thought about
I stared at that wall and I thought, how do I fuck it?
I have such a ladylike laugh.
That's why it's covered in white.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
Horny cast. Fuck.
Yeah, what the hell, man? I don't know.
We gotta find ourselves
Two
something
loser virgins.
Fucking talk about this goddamn movie.
Yeah. So I just want to make a little side note here that so it's Maddox is the character here, but Maddox is the name. I kept going. This is familiar. Why is it ringing a bell? because Maddox is the name of Josh Duhamel's character, the Soldier Boy, in Transformers.
Oh.
So it's just generic American soldier man name, I guess.
Oh god, I forgot that. I even forgot that guy was in that, because I know him as a TV guy.
He was the one good thing in those films, I think.
I don't know. I tried to erase that movie out of my brain.
He was perfectly adequate.
Yeah,
Once I tried writing a fan fiction about it, and I just got so frustrated. I can't fix it. I can't fix the Michael Bay Transformers films, I don't think. I'll still try maybe one day. I don't know.
No, I think his performance in that is that's the most correct description. Perfectly adequate.
Yes.
It wasn't Shia LaBeouf
Sufficient.
fucking screaming his way through the movie, or every other actor being incredibly annoying and stupid.
Are you telling me that you don't enjoy scenes of people going for about 5 minutes straight? I don't.
Yeah, but that's also the movie where there's a masturbation joke at his expense, so it makes a lot of sense. It's also
honestly, having done these RoboCop minutes, I mean, doing this RoboCop remake minute by minute, I'm thinking those Michael Bay movies actually sound pretty good right now.
I don't know. No, I don't even want to go there. I was going to say, has someone done Bayformers minute by minute?
They have not, and I think that would actually kill someone. That would be fatal. That would be a lethal amount.
Well, the good thing about that is you can do one movie and then just release it 5 times without changing any episodes.
It's basically the same thing. Yep.
See, I always thought that the Groundhog Day guys, doing the Groundhog Day minute, they should have just recorded one episode and then just kept re-releasing that one episode every week.
Think smarter, not harder. Work harder.
Yeah. Work smarter, not harder.
I fucked that so bad. Here we go. Yeah. I'll say it again. Work smarter, not harder.
There you go. So where can the lovely viewers find you?
You can find me at traviandesigns.com and patreon.com/traviandesigns and YouTube under Courtney Colson and The Greatest Regeneration on Instagram.
And you can find me at Painting with Night at paintingwithnight.com and Painting with Night, no caps, no gaps, on Facebook, Instagram. I also still have YouTube, but yeah, barely touch that anymore. And you can find us on Simplecast, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts, as well as the aforementioned tube of yous. Click like, comment, subscribe, send a review, do all that kind of cool, funky shit that somehow...
Promise us your firstborn child.
Or second, we're not picky, we just
No,
we just need
must
to
be
have
first.
We just need to have the blood sacrifices to the blood god so we can rise above the algorithm and ascend humanity. Yeah, do all that shit, and until next time.
I am Jack's Robocock.